Well, hello again. This is Casey Kasem. Welcome to American Top 40 and our regular countdown of this week's 40 best-selling single records in the USA. There are 4 debut songs in AT40 this week, and we lead off with the only act that has 2 hits. Here they are, Gladys Knight and the Pips with their latest titled On and On. Number 40. The first of the 40 hottest hits in the USA this week, that's a debut record by Gladys Knight and the Pips titled On and On. Now on American Top 40, I have the current hit from the Beatles-starring movie that's almost based on the classic horror film about the greatest vampire of them all, Count Dracula, who was played, of course, to perfection on the screen by the late Bela Lugosi. I'd better explain quickly that it's only one Beatle who's in the picture, and that's Ringo, who is also the producer. The movie premiered in Atlanta recently, and when Zoo World News Service asked why Atlanta, Ringo said because nobody else would take it. The film is called Son of Dracula, and the music score was composed by the artist who has the hit song from the movie. He also plays a part in the picture. At number 39, here's Harry Nilsson and Daybreak. The second week on AT40, written, produced, and sung by Nilsson. That's Daybreak. You're hearing the hottest hits in the USA, and the countdown rolls on. Well, 5 weeks from now is the 4th of July, and American Top 40's exclusive countdown of the 40 top artists of the 70s. Right now on AT40, Ringo Starr at number 38 with a former top 10 record. This is Oh My My. At number 38, Ringo Starr with Oh My My. The song at number 37 is a duet by Diana Ross and Marvin Gaye. I was just checking up on Marvin to see how many hit records he's had with female singers. The total, 16. 10 with the late Tammy Terrell, 2 with Kim Weston, 2 with Mary Wells, and this is his second hit song with Diana Ross. The 10th week on AT40 for Diana and Marvin. My Mistake Was to Love You. It's time for another debut song in American Top 40. At number 36, this is the Doobie Brothers' latest hit titled Another Park, Another Sunday. The Doobie Brothers with their first big hit since China Grove. This one debuts at 36 and it's titled Another Park, Another Sunday. Coming up on American Top 40, a recent number 1 hit that a teenage fan's parents won't let him buy, because they think the chant in the song means something dirty. Details coming up.
The Hits 40.
The 8th big week on American Top 40 for James Brown and The Payback, Part 1. This week at number 35. The unmistakable sound of James Brown. That's The Payback at number 35 in our countdown. Now I have on American Top 40 the recent number 1 song that a teenage fan isn't allowed to buy. You see, his parents won't let him have a copy in the house because they think it's dirty. We got the story from Bjorn Skifs, the leader of Blue Swede, whose hit Hooked on a Feeling starts out with the chant, Ooga Chukka, Ooga Chukka. Well, he told us that a teenage boy wrote to their label, Capitol Records, complaining that his parents won't let him buy a copy because Ooga Chukka is probably obscene. Well, if that boy's parents are listening, I'd like to assure them that Ooga Chukka is about as obscene as Hickory Dickory Dock or Bibbidi Bibbidi Boo. So rest easy. There's no need to change the station. The song is rated G. And it's number 34 this week. From Sweden, Blue Swede at number 34 with Hooked on a Feeling. Coming up, a new hit by a singer who's had 2 smash records in the past 7 months, and the only singles he'll record have to be custom written by female songwriters.
Casey's Comedy.
You know, AT40's heard coast to coast and around the world on great radio stations like KTGR, Columbia, Missouri, KTLK, Denver, Colorado, WSKW, Skowhegan, Maine, and WSTX, Christiansted, Virgin Islands. At number 33, Earth, Wind & Fire. The 6th week on American Top 40 for the group Earth, Wind & Fire. That's Mighty Mighty. Now I have a new hit by the singer who's had 2 big hits in the past 7 months, and the only singles he'll record have to be written especially for him by female songwriters. It's Eddie Kendricks, who hit number 1 last November with Keep On Truckin', and number 2 in March with Boogie Down. Now, why does he insist on female songwriters? Well, here's what he says. The best judge of what a woman wants to hear from a man is a female, obviously. End of quote. Well, who's going to argue with that? Eddie's 3rd hit in 7 months leaps into our countdown this week at number 32. His producers Frank Wilson and Leonard Kasten share writer's credits with his favorite female songwriter, Miss Anita Puri. Here's The Son of Sagittarius. Debuting at number 32 in American Top 40, that's Son of Sagittarius by Eddie Kendricks, and the countdown rolls on. Here's Mac, Baby Don't Get Hooked on Me Davis, born in Lubbock, Texas. Another big hit for Mac at number 31, second week on the chart. It's titled One Hell of a Woman.
She's a wall.
The second week on American Top 40, now at 31. Mac Davis and One Hell of a Woman. Here's one of 4 acts from Canada this week. At number 30, moving up 8 notches, second week on the chart, the remake of the old Drifters hit, Save the Last Dance for Me. The DeFranco Family. The DeFranco Family debuted last week at number 38. This week they move up to number 30 with Save the Last Dance for Me.
Number 29.
Here now is the oldest record on American Top 40 this week. It's been hanging in there for 17 weeks. Got as high as number 5. Redbone's Come and Get Your Love. At number 29, Redbone with Come and Get Your Love. You know, when I talk about a record as a double-sided hit, I usually mean that Billboard has listed the songs on both sides together on the Hot 100 because both songs are being asked for in the stores and getting airplay. But coming up in part 2 of our show is a different kind of double-sider. The song on one side is in the pop top 40, and the song on the other side is in the country top 40. And the singer is a pretty girl.
Casey.
There have been times when times were hard, but always somehow I made it through, 'cause for every moment I've spent hurting, there was a moment spent loving you. Here's Gladys Knight and the Pips. Jim Weatherly wrote the song. Gladys Knight and the Pips sing it. It's Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me, the former top 10 record, now at 28. Now I have the tune that debuts higher than any other this week. Carly Simon is back in the chart. She wrote it and Richard Perry produced it. Haven't Got Time for the Pain. This week's hottest new record at number 27, Carly Simon with Haven't Got Time for the Pain. This is Casey Kasem in Hollywood, counting them down at AT40. Got 26 hits to go on our way to number 1, so stay right there. As we continue the countdown, let me welcome 4 new stations to our AT40 lineup this week. There's KRRV, Sherman, Texas, WACK, Newark, New York, WGSB, St. Charles, Illinois, and WSIZ, Ocilla, Georgia. For those of you hearing AT40 for the first time, my name's Casey Kasem, and we'd like to welcome you to our weekly countdown of the 40 most popular songs in the USA.
Number 26.
Here's the uncommon double-sided hit I told you about. The artist is a woman, and the song she sings, while on one side of the record is a pop hit, the song on the other side is a country hit. And both are remakes of songs originally recorded by superstars. The title on the country side is He Thinks I Still Care, which was a giant hit for country great George Jones 12 years ago. And the pop side is a tune from the Beatles' album Rubber Soul of 1966. The song, You Won't See Me. Here's Anne Murray. One of the big movers on AT40 from 33 to 26, second week on the chart. Anne Murray with You Won't See Me. You know, there are 3 instrumentals in our countdown this week. There's The Entertainer, TSOP, and this one at number 25. From England, Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield. Music from The Exorcist at number 25 this week, a former top 10 record. Mike Oldfield and Tubular Bells. I have a letter here from a listener who wants to know if the top 5 have ever stayed exactly the same for 2 weeks in a row. Well, we found a time in 1958 when that did happen. The first names of the 5 artists were Buddy, Pat, Jerry, Rick, and Danny. Details coming up. At number 24, down 3 notches this week, from New York, Main Ingredient with Just Don't Want to Be Lonely. The 24th most popular song in the USA this week by Main Ingredient. It's titled Just Don't Want to Be Lonely. Now let's get to that letter and that question about movement at the top of the chart. Charlie Everett of Sag Harbor, New York writes, Dear Casey, in the history of the Hot 100, has one week's top 5 ever been the same as the previous week's top 5? Well, Charlie, after digging through several hundred issues of the chart, we did find one time when the top 5 stayed exactly the same for 2 weeks in a row. Now, it may have happened more than once, but we stopped looking when we found the one time. It was 16 years ago in January 1958. These were the hits that held the top spot for those 2 consecutive weeks. Number 5, Peggy Sue by Buddy Holly. Number 4 was April Love by Pat Boone. Number 3 was Jerry Lee Lewis's Great Balls of Fire. Number 2 was Rick Nelson, or Ricky Nelson then, with Stood Up. And number 1 was Danny and the Juniors with At the Hop. Charlie, thanks for your letter. Now on with the countdown.
Number 23.
Here's a song that was number 1 for a couple of weeks, several weeks ago. And now at number 23, TSOP by MFSB. At number 23 in the countdown, that's MFSB, or Mother, Father, Sister, Brother, with TSOP, the sound of Philadelphia.
The hits from
You know, American Top 40 originates in Hollywood. My name's Casey Kasem. The countdown doesn't stop until we get to the number 1 best-selling song in the USA this week. This is Hollywood Swingin'. At number 22, moving up 6, by Kool and the Gang. The third week on American Top 40 already at number 22. Kool and the Gang with another hot one titled Hollywood Swingin'. At number 21 is a former number 1 song by Elton John. It's titled Benny and the Jets. Elton John, the man who in 1973 made the Crocodile Rock famous. That was a number 1 record, and so was this one, Benny and the Jets. The biggest hits are yet to come as we count them down on our way to number 1. This week on AT40, there are 10 female singers. One of those singers was raised in Australia. Her name's Olivia Newton-John. She's got the 20th best-selling song in the nation this week. If You Love Me, Let Me Know. Olivia Newton-John at number 20 this week with If You Love Me, Let Me Know, produced by John Farrar. You know, American Top 40 is heard coast to coast and around the world every week on great radio stations like KTAM Bryan, Texas, KTFS Texarkana, Texas, WSGN Birmingham, Alabama, WSIB Beaumont, Texas, and 3KZ Melbourne, Australia. At number 19 this week, moving up 1 notch, Aretha Franklin's I'm in Love. Aretha with a former number 1 soul song in the Billboard chart at number 19 this week on the Billboard Pop Chart. That's I'm in Love. Coming up, the latest in a string of hits for the duo who have had only 1 chart record that didn't make the top 20. It was their version of a former number 1 hit by the Beatles, Ticket to Ride.
the hits.
Here's a reminder. In just 5 weeks, we'll be doing another American Top 40 Super Special. Now that we're nearly halfway through the 70s, that's what it's going to be about. The 40 top artists of the 70s. It'll be the first weekend in July. I know you're going to like it. Right now on AT40, we're up to number 18 in the countdown. It's Chicago with Searchin' So Long. After 3 consecutive weeks at number 9, Chicago falls to number 18 with I've Been Searching So Long. Well, now on American Top 40, I have the song by the duo who have missed the top 20 with only 1 of a string of chart records. Their version of a former number 1 song by John, Paul, George, and Ringo. Back in 1965, the Beatles recorded Ticket to Ride, and like almost everything they did, it hit number 1. 5 years later, a brother and sister act recorded the same song, and it only got up to number 54. But their next record, Close to You, went right up to number 1. And every record they've released since then has made the top 20. All but 2 of those have made it to the top 10. Their current hit moves down to number 17 this week. Here are Richard and Karen Carpenter with I Won't Last a Day Without You. The Carpenters with a tune written by Paul Williams and Roger Nichols. I Won't Last a Day Without You. You're listening to this week's 40 top tunes in the 50 states, and the countdown rolls on.
Casey.
Here's a 24-year-old singer who has been a star for 12 years. Stevie Wonder at number 16, and Don't You Worry About a Thing. Stevie Wonder at number 16 in our countdown on American Top 40 with Don't You Worry About a Thing. Though you may not drive a great big Cadillac, gangster white walls, TV in the back, you may not have a car at all. Now, this isn't a used car commercial. It's a lyric from the number 1 soul song in the USA, this week at number 15 on American Top 40. Written by William DeVaughn, who sings it. Be thankful for what you got. The first big hit record on American Top 40 for William DeVaughn of Washington, D.C. That moved from number 22 to number 15. Be thankful for what you got. Here's a tune that moved down from number 4 to number 14. It's Three Dog Night with The Show Must Go On. Leo Sayer took that song to number 1 in England. Three Dog Night this week at number 14 with a former top 10 record. The show must go on. This is Casey in Hollywood. We'll be right back with the top 13 best-selling songs in the USA and a super rock group that's number 1 in the top 40 of the American Red Cross. Now let's continue with a countdown of the most popular songs in the USA. I'm Casey Kasem. This is American Top 40. On we go on our way to number 1.
Number 13.
Former number 1 by Grand Funk, The Locomotion. Grand Funk and The Locomotion, this week at number 13. Let me tell you a little story about Grand Funk. They made a charitable donation this past Easter that you really can't measure in dollars. What they gave was blood to the American Red Cross. Now, a lot of entertainers donate blood, but the American Red Cross doesn't generally go after any particular celebrities the way they went after Grand Funk. There was a reason. You see, young people just weren't into donating their blood. So the Red Cross had a survey taken to see which celebrities would have the biggest influence on people under 25. Grand Funk came up number 1. So the Red Cross went to them and said, if you give blood, so will thousands of young people. And in return, we'll give you a cookie and a glass of orange juice. So on Sunday, the only day they had off in their current schedule, the 4 musicians went down to the blood bank, rolled up their sleeves, and gave blood. Another day in the lives of Craig Frost, Mel Shaker, Don Brewer, and Mark Farner. Grand Funk. And the countdown rolls on now, with Jim Stafford this week at number 12, moving up 4 with My Girl Bill.
Bill walked me to my set.
The 5th week on American Top 40, now at number 12, that's Jim Stafford's My Girl Bill. We're counting them down the way they're ranked on Billboard's national charts, and the countdown rolls on.
Casey's coming.
The O'Jays were originally from Canton, Ohio. Now they're based in Philadelphia. Their first hit record goes back to 1963, a song titled Lonely Drifter. They've had a number 1 song, and that was last year, Love Train. Currently, they're one step out of the top 10 with a tune titled For the Love of Money. Here are the O'Jays. That moves up 4 this week to number 11. The O'Jays, For the Love of Money. Here now is the latest hit by the British superstar who was forced to cancel several dates in the middle of his current American tour after he cut the middle finger of his left hand. Took 4 stitches and a week of total rest to heal. But the hand's fine now, and so is the rest of Cat Stevens. Here's his hit, Oh Very Young. At number 10, first week in the top 10, Cat Stevens with Oh Very Young. This is Casey Kasem on American Top 40, with a very important reminder. You know, in just 5 weeks, we'll be doing another American Top 40 super special. We're working on it right now. The 40 top artists of the 70s. That'll be the first weekend in July. Right now, Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods moving up to number 9 with Billy, Don't Be a Hero. A 7-man group ranging in ages from 18 to 22. Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods at number 9 this week with Billy, Don't Be a Hero. And the countdown rolls on. Here's the first top 10 single for Joni Mitchell. At number 8 this week, this is Help Me. At number 8 in the countdown this week, moving up 2 notches, Joni Mitchell with Help Me. You know, Joni is one of 4 Canadian acts on AT40 this week. Canadians are doing pretty good. There's the DeFranco family, Anne Murray, Joni Mitchell, and Gordon Lightfoot. Here he is with Sundown. Gordon Lightfoot moved from number 12 last week to number 7 this week, moving up with Sundown. Coming up on AT40, the current top 40 hit, written by the composer whose works you'll find on Billboard's classical record chart of the past month in the top 3 positions.
Casey.
You know, once a week with AT40, and you know where your favorite songs are in the national music scene. I'm Casey Kasem, and we're up to number 6 in our countdown. Here's the chart action on this record by Maria Muldaur. 10, 8, 7, 6. Here she is. The 4th week in the top 10, moving up, now at number 6, that's Maria Rosa Grazia D'Amato Muldaur with Midnight at the Oasis. You know, once a month, Billboard magazine publishes the classical record chart. And you'll find the names you'd expect to see there, such as Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms, to name 3 of the Bs. But over the past few weeks, those symphonic superstars have been playing 4th fiddle to a man who introduced a new style of pop music about 75 years ago. Today, his works appeal to a very broad range of musical tastes. On the classical chart, the top 3 albums are interpretations of his music, while the movie soundtrack album from The Sting, which features his compositions, has been #1 on the pop album chart. And one of those songs is a smash hit single, an instrumental by Marvin Hamlisch, peaking at #3 last week. Now at #5, here's about 3 minutes worth of the tremendously popular music of Scott Joplin. That was Marvin, I Feel We Can Talk as Friends, Hamlisch from New York City, at #5 with The Entertainer. And the countdown rolls on.
The hits from
You know, AT40 is heard coast to coast and around the world on great radio stations like KTSA San Antonio, Texas, WTLB Utica, New York, and WPIX New York, New York. At #4 this week, moving up a couple of notches, from Philadelphia, the Stylistics, and You Make Me Feel Brand New. The third week in the top 10 for the Stylistics with You Make Me Feel Brand New. 3 hits to #1 and counting them down.
number 3.
Here are the Jackson 5 with Dancing Machine. The Jackson 5 with one of 8 top 10 records they've had in 4 years. At #3, that's Dancing Machine. Coming up on AT40, the current smash by the artist who turned down Burt Bacharach's offer 5 years ago to record a surefire hit. Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head. Chief statistician Ben Marichal says this one is destined to become a #1 record for Paul McCartney and Wings. You know, they've had a couple of them. As Paul McCartney and Wings, they had My Love, and as Paul and Linda McCartney, they had Uncle Albert and Admiral Halsey. This one is Band on the Run, this week at #2. The story of a far-out recording session in Lagos, Nigeria. At #2, moving up 3 this week, Paul McCartney and Wings with Band on the Run. Well, now I have the current smash by the artist who turned down an offer 5 years ago to record a surefire hit. He was personally asked by Burt Bacharach to sing the theme song over the main titles of a movie that Burt had just scored, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Well, the deal looked good, but it meant that the theme song, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, would have to be released right away as a single to promote the film. The singer had another song that he was itching to get out, so he told Burt he couldn't do Raindrops. And then he watched B.J. Thomas's recording of it hit #1 and win an Oscar. And his own single? That's right, it bombed. It bombed so badly we couldn't even find out what it was. Instead of singing the blues, this singer wrote and recorded another song that shows you how the man thinks. He called it Everything is Beautiful. And everything certainly was beautiful for Ray Stevens, because it hit #1 6 months after Raindrops hit. Now, The Streak became his second #1 record 2 weeks ago. And it remains in the #1 position. Here's Ray Stevens.
Hello, everyone. This is your Action News reporter with all
The only one of more than a dozen Streak records that made it. The Streak by Ray Stevens, #1 for the 3rd consecutive week. You've just heard the biggest selling hits in America for the past week on American Top 40. My name's Casey Kasem, and we do our countdown every week at this time. Our list of the top 40 comes from Billboard's record survey for the week ending June 1st, 1974. AT40 is produced and distributed by Watermark Incorporated. Producer Don Bastani. Director Chuck Olson. We tape the show here in Hollywood. Join me next week, and we'll do it again. Till then, keep your feet in the ground and keep reaching for the stars.